Digital disruption in the UAE with dubizzle.
The latest buzz in the world of technology and innovation with the UAE's latest homegrown unicorn.
Yeah, I really want to talk digital disruption this morning because, look, goes without saying, doesn't it, the COVID-19 pandemic has drastically reshaped so many things in our lives, so many different industries, so many different businesses, lifestyles and otherwise. None more so than the digital marketing space here in the region and further afield. Events cancelled, marketing budgets slashed or redefined, digital marketing, Zoom to Team Talk or otherwise. A whole host of questions that need to be answered. So I want to get more on this one from the marketing performance Director of Marketing Performance at dubizzle and Bayut, Amash Malik, who joins us live on the line and also, happy to say, live on Microsoft Teams. Amash, good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are
you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Appreciate your time this morning on what is a very, very crucial subject for so many individuals and organisations out there. So, I mean, in light of the experiences that we've been through in the past 2 years or so, how does or how should a brand, a company communicate these days? Is it again a hybrid version of marketing? Is it a blended way of marketing? What's your advice?
I think indeed it would be a hybrid way, but I think for that we need to understand how the pandemic itself reshaped a few things. A year ago when the pandemic started, the lockdowns happened across the globe. So there was uncertainty, which meant more and more people had restricted movement, and which eventually meant that there was more internet audience that was more active than ever before. And hence, it meant ultimately greater reach on digital platforms, more adoption. Like even in UAE, if we see the data from the telco authorities, there was about 20% month over month increase in terms of internet and digital adoption soon after the lockdown began back in April, May. So I think these all correlate to the fact that we at dubizzle and Bayut also saw much greater reach and active internet audience on our digital platforms, for example, on Facebook, on Instagram, and other networks. So generally, what we observed was that since the internet adoption was high, the digital reach itself became much more significant. And hence, what we did was that we also ourselves revisited our objectives. We reshaped the campaigns back then and repurposed a few things to continue providing value to our consumers during different stages of lockdowns throughout. Some data from McKinsey, if you observe that, you see that the consumers' behavior shifted. As per their reports, about 95% of the people, they shifted or tried at least one new method of transaction. So, for example, people who were active on retail tried something on e-commerce. People who were already into e-commerce tried social commerce. So things reshaped a bit and transitioned more digitally, which calls to the fact that more digital is the way forward, but it has to be hybrid to cover all.
In terms of that, is it fair to say or fair to assume that marketing per se, digital or otherwise, has become more specific, more relevant to the consumer in light of what we've been through now?
That's true. And again, the reason is because of more time being spent on internet. Like another study shows that about 7.5 hours daily on average in UAE are being spent on the internet, and the population is active pretty much over the internet, which also reflects to if we observe the trends across the years. Some of the studies from Google and McKinsey also show that in last couple of years, about 60 to 70% of the total advertisement spending has been now shifted towards digital landscape.
What does the customer expect now? Has their expectation changed as a result of the pandemic?
That's right. Again, links back to the same thing. Because people are surfing internet more, they expect better experience. So if we look into a product or service, so there are many other touch points even before a customer reaches the final touch point or final product or service he or she is interested in. So to improve that experience, that is the job of the performance marketing team. So we ensure that we are present and are relevant across all the touch points, whether it's on social media, whether if they are browsing a product, they are looking on search engines. So we ensure that we are present and we optimize their experience well in advance before they land on a website or app.
So let's talk creativity if we can, which is at the very heart of the advertising, the marketing industry out there at the moment. How to be creative in, what is it, fast approaching October 2021. Has our sort of concept of creativity for marketeers changed?
So creativity, that comes without saying. No marketing is out there without being out or generating out of the box ideas.
Yeah.
However, where we up the game is actually by being very, very data driven. So we have a strong data culture, which helps our strategies to be cohesive and generally data levels all arguments. So we build insights from our data. For example, a car buyer will ultimately become a car seller. So we have automated systems in place to help understand the key moments for our audiences. And this ultimately then allows us to be present on all the digital platforms at right point in a consumer's journey, apart from being creative. So data is probably one of the more critical points, which helps us in overall marketing.
So what's your advice from an expert's opinion to companies out there listening in at the moment who might be wading knee deep at the moment in their marketing campaigns? How do you create the right message digitally these days?
So I think for that, you need to look into the data you have at your disposal. Understanding what your audiences are, what they like, dislike, what they interact with, and then building data models upon that to further predict which audience is going to churn, which audience is going to interact better for certain products, and then build a virtuous continuous feedback loop. So you feed in or feed back the same data you get from the first assessment back into to optimize your results even better.
And in terms of the brands that the winners and losers in this new digital landscape, which is becoming more and more evolved, are sort of online brands or brands born out of e-commerce, are they in a better position? They have a head start against more traditional brands?
So to some extent, yes. But on the flip side, we have examples such as of Nike. They had retail being their dominant area or dominant revenue generation stream. But over the last couple of years, they realized and shifted it very quickly. And as per some studies, now over 60% of their revenue is being generated through online sales. So yes, there is a head start for brands which are born online. But then on the traditional front, there are brands which are adopting the digital landscape. So I think speed itself becomes very important. Being speedy, I think being proactive and not reactive is the key.
Yeah.
Like we used to say that fortune favors the brave, but I think it's the fortune favors the brave and the speedy now. Agility
is key. Amash, really appreciate it. Thanks so much indeed for your time this morning. Amash Malik is the Director of Marketing Performance at dubizzle and Bayut.
This is the Business Breakfast on Dubai.